Hello and welcome to this round 7 of Grand Prix Lille, and we have Henk Lucassen on a Sultai mid-range list against Yellow Hat himself. There you can tell he's Yellow Hat because he's wearing the yellow hat. That's Gabriel Nassif, Hall of Famer from France, playing mono blue tempo. Starts things off with a Siren Stormcaller, and that means that he's going to be the one that's early on dictating the tempo things as a Wild Growth Walker comes along. Fantastic on the ground, but will not do very much against the Air Force deployed by this mono blue tempo list. Opt coming along on turn 2 for Nassif, signaling that potentially he's kept a hand that's maybe a little bit light on mana. He desperately would love to get an early Curious Obsession on one of his flyers so he can start drawing lots of additional cards, but for now has to content himself with just swinging in for one, passing with a mana up, potentially for the likes of Spell Pierce, though against what at the moment appears to be largely a green-black list, he may find that there's a lot more creatures than there are spells.
Watery Grave.
Now, I do happen to know from our text reporter, Toby Henker, that one of the blue cards that is the reason that this is a Sultai list rather than simply being green-black is the addition of Muldrotha. Now, Muldrotha, of course, a gigantic threat that gets to get things back from the graveyard each and every turn, and certainly might prove to be pivotal here if the game goes long enough. But if you're Gabriel Nassif, you want this game to be over as quickly as possible. Get those hits in the air and try and just work things out that way, which might be proving difficult if it works out that this Wild Growth Walker keeps gaining life for Henk Lucassen.
Yeah, the mono blue tempo deck is a tempo deck. It has to raise his opponent. His creatures are not that good at blocking, so if your opponent can gain a bunch of life with Wild Growth Walker, it's actually very hard to win the race. You don't even have cards like Into the Royal. Merfolk Trickster helps a bit in the race, but it's just one turn, you know. This is good news for Gabe.
Yep, no further attacks. He is still looking for land, finds another island off the top here, so in principle he can do things like start throwing down Tempest Yin. Tempest Yin would already be a 3/4 flyer for 3, a fantastic rate, but it may be that actually he wants to hold his mana up for a little bit of disruption early doors, hold off on the big flyer until a little bit later. There you see the Merfolk Trickster that managed to essentially fog the last turn. And Nassif does pass with all of that mana up. 3 beautiful matching islands there from Dominaria that he's going to use to hopefully try and stymie whatever it is that's going on from Lucassen.
Yellow hat, yellow hat.
That was Gabriel Nassif's nickname before he even qualified for the Pro Tour. He was the little French kid who would show up to all of the PTQs, win them, and then, well, maybe concede in the finals because he wasn't allowed to travel outside the country to go to tournaments. So for a long while, before he was even at the Pro Tour, he was clearly Pro Tour level, and then ultimately did start making it out to the Pro Tour, and from there on out, you know, this is a Hall of Famer with a storied tale of success at the very highest level. Another Merfolk Trickster coming down here.
Here we have the most important card, of course. Well, the second to most, I'd say, in mono blue. Tempest Djinn, 0/4, but it's +1/+0 for every island. You don't really want to play it if you cannot protect it. Kind of want to be careful until you draw, for example, Dive Down, or have 3 mana up or 2 mana up if you have a wizard for Wizard's Retort. There we have the card that is the best at protecting Tempest Djinn, Dive Down. But I don't think Gabe has one in hand at this point.
Yeah, there are some matchups where Spell Pierce can also be a good way of stopping what's going on from the other side of things. But to be honest, for this list on the other side of the table, it's just as likely that the thing that would kill off a Tempest Djinn might be a key creature, the likes of Ravenous Chupacabra, as it would be a spell. So Spell Pierce here also, there's 2 mana up. So this Assassin's Trophy Spell Pierce would not be enough to stop it.
There's still the Storm Tamer, which could get sacrificed, but it seems like he'd like a land. Keeping up the Spell Pierce, maybe against Vraska. Or actually, he gets an untapped land, which is crucial because he's
now his Wizard's Retort is turned on, right?
Yep. Assassin's Trophy, I'm still unsure. I think it's better than people give it credit for. Sure, your opponent getting a land is value you give him, but getting rid of any type of permanent, I think is very good in this format with so many 6-mana planeswalkers and expensive spells they're trying to get going.
So Henk Lucassen not struggling to hit his land drops, but he's not pressured Nassif's life total too much yet. Let's see what the 5 brings.
This must be the best spell pierce target ever.
Yeah, not necessarily expecting to be able to get to Spell Pierce on turn 5. Maybe a Planeswalker, but Eldest Reborn also definitely qualifying as something that you want to stop coming down. And another Spell Pierce to pick up there. An old-fashioned race that we got in our hands here.
The mono blue deck, of course, it plays 2 different games. It plays the Curious Obsession games, where you just run over, draw 2 cards every turn, and then it has to battle very hard in the games where you don't have Curious Obsession.
Walkout Marauder, an interesting one. A straightforward 2-1 flyer, but also causes creature dependent controls to lose all abilities and become a 0-1 until end of turn. Worth noting, of course, that with the Wild Growth Walker, it would be a 0-1 with a +1/+1 counter, so it would be a 1-2 when the Walkout Marauder attacks. Got a few effects before combat here. Assassin's Trophy to deal with the Marauder before any attacks come from the other side of things.
I believe Gabe's hand... Oh, he's actually going to sacrifice the Storm Tamer. Yeah, I think that's a good choice. Now he does get to attack for 4. As you said, the Wild Growth Walker is now 1-2. Still cannot block the Trickster.
Or certainly not, at least without losing the Wild Growth Walker itself. And every Explore means that it's going to be pretty good.
6 mana.
This time 2 mana left up. Muldrotha of the Gravetide. Let's run through everything that this powerful permanent can do. It means that you get to, during each of your turns, you can play up to 1 permanent card of each type from your graveyard. So if there's lands in there, you can play them. If there's enchantments and so on and so forth. That meets a Wizard's Retort, and thank goodness for Nassif that it does, because when you've got the likes of the Eldest Reborn getting to get cast again and again and again, alongside other key permanents coming back, it can be a big problem.
It is a permanent card, so instant and sorceries you cannot flashback. But enchantments, creatures, lands, artifacts, they all work. Very good, of course, with the Eldest Reborn.
And game 1 for Gabriel Nassif here. Quietly, he's had just the counter magic that he's needed, that even though each of his individual creatures are not big and scary, they've been consistently hitting in. And that means the life total is 4-16 in Gabriel Nassif's favour. He's gone wide enough that this could be a very difficult situation for Henk Lucassen to dig himself out of here.
Yeah, Chupacabra does give Henk some wiggling space. Gets rid of the Marauder, and now Gabe's board not all that impressive anymore.
Mistcloaked Herald will be able to attack in unimpeded each and every turn. That one, the easiest attacker. Whether or not he wants to attack with anything more, a little bit of a question mark. Just goes in for the 1, and from here on out, Henk Lucassen, he needs to be doing some exploring. He's got that Wild Growth Wander in play, and he's not really been able to do much in terms of gaining life and exploring. At 3 life at the moment, if he can do any amount of that, that will help a lot. But here comes Vraska. Vraska can deal with something on the other side of the battlefield. Not too much in Nassif's deck that will not get offed by the big Planeswalker here. For now, though, ticking up. Drawing a card, gaining a life, effectively holding back the Mistcloaked Herald by gaining the life that it has been dealing damage for. And 5 mana here. If it's another Planeswalker, then this might make a Spell Pierce. The Spell Pierces for Nassif have been spectacular this game. There we saw Vivian Reed just being taken down by the 1 mana counter magic. Not necessarily a given that you'll see Spell Pierce be this good every game against Green-Black, but right now Nassif still active, still getting a little bit going through, and he's still got more counter magic to look at.
Yeah, difficult decision for Gabe here. Does he attack the Vraska or Henk? I think I like attacking Henk, because the Vraska, I mean, get it to 5, goes up to 7. It's already +2 every turn. I don't think the -1 is gonna be that relevant. I do like putting Hank at 3 life, in case you get another unblockable or another flyer. I think that's your best chance of winning this game.
As things stand, Henk floats some mana, ticks up Vraska to 7.
8.
8, yes, sorry.
6. I mean, even the ultimate on Vraska is not that big of a problem as long as you have blockers.
Yeah, the ultimate being Vraska turns all of your creatures into player assassins. They all get the ability when your creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. And you can see here the respect for how powerful exploring is right now. Wizard's retort being used just on a straightforward creature with explore, just to stop on the life gain there. And then Deadweight comes down to deal with Mistcloak Herald.
Tempest Djinn.
Uh-oh. This could be where the game swings around a little bit for Henk Lucassen. Nassif doesn't have a clear source of damage, and there's a Planeswalker ticking up. There's creatures on the board to stop a lot of what's going on. Each and every turn, Henk Lucassen doesn't mind sacrificing a land because he's gaining life, drawing cards. The difference in terms of just the life totals from the life gain on Vraska is pretty huge. And Jadelight Ranger is going to resolve. That's 2 explores. Before we worry about anything, that's Wild Growth Walker triggering twice. And, oh, he accidentally flipped an extra card there. I think that Nassif, he's pretty chill about these sort of things. He's been around the block enough times that he's willing to just sort of be like, let's just keep the game on going. I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal in terms of the overall result of this game, because Henk Lucassen's suddenly at 11 life, and he's got everything going for him here.
Yeah, also has a finality in hand, so even a Tempest Djinn off the top wouldn't do it. Wild Growth Walker is very good in this matchup. You wouldn't expect it from a ground creature, but gaining a bunch of life against a deck that's trying to kill you with unblockables and flyings actually matters a lot.
Now, Tempest Djinn is the pickup here for Gabriel Nassif, so at least on the face of things, he gets to force Vraska to make a decision. But right now, all it would take would be any kind of removal for the ultimate plus removal to be able to close this game out this very turn.
Yeah, he has it, right? Ultimate and then find finality. Yeah. Grow. Oh, he's actually just doing it this way. He could find finality, I think, and then kill Gabe.
I guess revealing fewer cards, a strong temptation here.
So now the Chupacabra and the Jadelight Ranger die. Yeah, and then he's probably gonna find and then get back the Chupacabra, kill the Tempest Djinn. It's not gonna matter, but I think he could have killed this turn by growing his Wild Growth Walker, killing all of Gabe's creatures, and then swing. But this plays a little bit better against the counterspell, I guess.
As it turns out, it's just another island in hand for Nassif. And you know what? Nassif just scoops up his cards. He can see the writing on the wall at this point. Wants to get onto his game too. Remember, these players each at 5 and 1. Whoever wins this round will be in day 2 of the competition. And even the player that loses this round, they've got one more shot at getting to that 6th win, making sure that they're going to be playing on Sunday.
Yellow hat, yellow hat.
Henk there with the sleeves of his jumper rolled up, but his jumper neatly matching the sleeves on his cards. Meanwhile, you can see the face-to-face games, sleeves and shirt of Gabriel Nassif. It seems like we're matching all round.
Yeah, face-to-face games, of course, one of the better teams as well for the upcoming Pro Tour series.
And you can bet that for Nassif, who's been testing Standard for quite a while now, this is one of the cases where he's going to get lots of data points. I wouldn't necessarily assume anything about what he's playing at the Pro Tour based on what he's playing this weekend, because he actually has a very big range. Often, for a long while, we used to think of him as being the control master, and he is certainly very good with control. But this is someone who's willing to do all sorts of different things in Constructed. He made a deep run at the Pro Tour. I think he made Pro Tour finals with a Reap and Sow deck in a format where everyone else was playing Affinity. He has done a lot of good work with Cruel Ultimatum control lists in Kyoto. Then what else have we seen him working with? He made a top 8 at Worlds, I think in Paris in 2006, with a deck that was all about gaining life with Martyr of Sands. This is a man who has a very large range in terms of what he will do, and it's perfectly happy to work his way through every card in a format to find the deck that he really likes.
Yeah, it's another, I guess, strength that most of the top players have these days, that they can play pretty much anything. They're not really like stuck into one archetype. They can open their book, look at what's the best in the format, and they'll happily play it. Some people always want to play mid-range. Some of them mostly want to play aggro, like myself. I do enjoy playing aggro, but if you really want to become one of the best players in the world, you just need to have the skills to also pilot control.
And Gabriel Nassif just this last week posted an article where he covered off a whole mess of decks that he's been testing that he felt have merit in this metagame. He was saying about how he very much liked a white weenie list that was just splashing a small amount of red. He felt like that was very potent. Clearly here on Mono Blue, he's testing out how that one has changed in the metagame, given that it's a well-established deck from pre-rotation that did not lose very much. There are a lot of different options available in this standard metagame, and someone like Nassif will explore pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's Henk Lucassen who is a game up, and I like the addition of a little bit of blue to green blacklist. I really don't feel like it costs you very much to have some water graves somewhere within your initial opening 60, and Muldrotha does feel like the kind of card that is another high-end threat that can really close out games. Whether or not the high-end is the biggest problem for the green-black lists, I'm not quite sure, but I certainly value the efforts being made to try a few different things out.
The question is it better than Carnage Tyrant? Because that's been the late game we've been looking at these first 6 rounds. I'm not even sure. I mean, against control with counter spells, it's definitely worse. In the mirror, I don't think it's that much better. I think it might even be worse because of Ravenous Chupacabra and Assassin's Trophy and Vraska's Contempt. So I think it's, unless he's got something going from the sideboard, or maybe he's got like Thief of Sanity, which I do think is a good card in the mirror. So far, I don't think the blue has been worth it from what we've seen.
All right, so Nassif with a hand of 2 islands. He's got a Mistcloaked Herald. He's not got a Curious Obsession just yet, but he does have a Tempestian to work towards. So he elects to keep his. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Henk Lucassen having to go down to, well, at most 6.
One of the good cyber cards from black-green against the mono-blue deck, and you wouldn't really expect it because it does play a lot of creatures, is Duress. But that's just because how good Curious Obsession is, how good protecting your creature with Dive Down is. So bringing in 3 or 4 Duress is actually really good against the mono-blue decks.
Yeah, I mean, the mono-blue tempo list, as with a lot of tempo lists over the years, the creatures in large part are kind of incidental compared to the disruption that it's able to present. This is a tempo list that owes a certain passing nod towards things like the good old-fashioned Skies deck from Acadian Masks block, which was essentially some mediocre-looking creatures alongside some absolutely fantastic counter magic, and I believe that Curiosity was involved there too.
Yeah, and in some way, Rishadan Airship or Air?
That's the one. Yep, 3/1 flyer, can't block creatures on the ground for 3.
Very comparable to the 4/4 flying we get now for 3 mana. Like 3/1 flying, yeah, got a little bit better.
Yeah, creatures have improved a little bit since Masks block, though I'm sure the Rebels might have a little bit to say about that. Mistcloaked Herald coming down on turn 1, and it's going to be the little blue lava axe that could, one would imagine, in these first few turns. Not really worth playing discard spells on. Charter Course, just a straightforward 2 mana draw 2, a cut price divination. And Henk here, his lands coming into play tapped initially is going to be a little bit on the go slow. There is a Curious Obsession in hand for Nassif here, and he does use it.
Yeah, much better start here for Nassif. Charter Course found him the Curious Obsession, and now he's got the Herald, plus a way to protect it. Actually, another Curious Obsession as well for next turn. So I think he's gonna play his second Herald, and then still have Dive Down mana up.
Yeah, this is one of the starts that you talked about for the mono blue tempo list that can make it feel like you're just immediately on the wrong side of things. If you're Henk, you're looking at a 2/2 creature that, yes, you could get a 2-for-1 if you can kill it, but that's if you can kill it, because there's mana up, and this is exactly where the mono blue list can relatively reliably find ways of keeping around the creatures it really needs to when it's drawing all of these extra cards.
The good thing to note here is that the Sultai deck actually slowed down itself by one turn, by playing Drowned Catacombs on turn 2 and Hinterland Harbor on turn 3. Whereas a normal green-black deck wouldn't have had that problem, and we would have seen a Walker plus a Jade Light Ranger at this point already.
So for Nassif here, the temptation definitely there to throw down another copy of Curious Obsession, draw a lot of cards, still have most of his mana up, 2 copies of Dive Down already sat awaiting.
Yeah, so now the question is, do I play Tempest Gem with 1 Dive Down up, or do I play a second Curious Obsession? And maybe do I even make my 2/2 a 3/3 to play against around Golden Demise, or just 2 2/2s to play around targeted creature removal?
I mean, I guess that the Dive Down also granting toughness means that it's not too big a worry to diversify your threats a little bit.
And the guy on the picture actually wearing a hat, so
yeah,
unfortunately it's not a yellow hat, but it's a start.
Gabriel Nassif doing everything he needs to in these early stages of the game, but Jade Light Ranger here will resolve, and it represents 6 life for Henk Lucassen thanks to the double explore that's going on. That meaning that Gabriel Nassif firstly wants to make sure that he's not going to be taking lots of damage from that wild growth walker.
He doesn't gain life. He loses all abilities. Look at that, Merfolk Trickster. Not only tapping the 1/3, but also making sure that Henk stays at 13 life.
And that's pretty important. 6 life would have been gigantic there. Yes, there's a 4/3 in play, but the 4/3 is not going to be able to do a whole lot of blocking against at least those Mistcloaked Heralds.
Merfolk Trickster, there we have it. It loses all abilities until end of turn. So it was a 1/3 vanilla creature that was tapped. And then even though Henk was exploring twice, it didn't do much.
They're so curious, these Mistcloaked Heralds. They got a cloak, they got a couple of hats. They're just coming on in, dealing a lot of damage. And now Gabriel Nassif is drawing 3 additional cards with each time that he gets to successfully swing through. And those Mistcloaked Heralds can't be blocked. So now we're in this weird spot where for Nassif, he's almost at a point where he needs to be discarding here.
So is this going the right way?
I mean, if it's not, then quite frankly, I don't know what is. If you're Henk here, there's got to be a whole bunch of exploring just to stay alive these next couple turns. Cast Merfolk Branchwalker.
Yeah, sure. Nassif could actually Essence Scatter, but I don't think it's worth it. He's still attacking for 3, 4, 5, 6 next turn, and then 6 again will seal the deal. So if he's got 2 counters up next turn, he should be able to do it. And he's still at a healthy 20 life. Could even chum block with his Merfolk Trickster if needed. So I think this game's pretty much over.
Yeah. The Curious Obsession draws for Mono Blue Tempo. Completely different game to when Curious Obsession does not stick around. And if you're Henk Lucassen, you have to at least try to kill that Mistcloaked Herald that's got a couple of Curious Obsession on at some point. And Essence Scatter now coming down to prevent more exploration from the other side of things.
Free Ancestral Recall incoming.
Ugh. +1/+1 as well is just absolutely brutal. And Nassif will be hitting all his land drops forevermore. That means that Tempest Djinns will be very scary in the air. At this point, Henk Lucassen on 3. We have to remember that he has the potential to gain 3 each and every time he explores, so it's not as if he's definitely out of this game in terms of the game will be over next turn, but even if things go well for him, the game might not be in great shape for him.
Yeah, and I think Nassif actually has two. Is it Disdainful Stroke, or is it the other counter? He's looking at Storm Tamer.
Yeah, looking for see if there's any way that he can stop this duress. I'm not sure that he can here.
I think it's targeting you. Yeah, then you can actually. It doesn't.
All right.
Yeah, target opponent.
And Henk very much on the back foot here. He gets a little swing in. Nassif just takes it. That's 10 life for Nassif, but 10 life might as well be a million here because... All right, there is a cast down, but dive down proving to be the more potent card with down in its title. And Gab Nassif squares things up. We will be going to a game 3 here, and Nassif desperately hoping to find a way of making sure that he's locked up for day 2 before even getting through to the last round of day 1.
Yep, this was like the perfect example why this mono blue deck sometimes feels unbeatable. Turn 1, 1/1 unblockable. Turn 2, draw some cards in order to find a Curious Obsession, and then turn 3, Curious Obsession. While your opponent hasn't played anything, you suddenly have a 2/2 unblockable that draws you extra cards every turn, and you have dive down up against removal spells.
And from there, obviously drawing additional cards each and every turn means that things can snowball relatively quickly, and that's exactly what happened in game 2. For Henk Lucassen, I don't think that he did anything wrong. It's just that he was up against the best draw from a good deck in the format.
He got a little bit punished by his blue mana base. I think if it would have been black green, I think it would have gone a lot better with a turn 2 Walker and a turn 3 Jadelight Ranger. At least he would have had like the chance of trying to raise the draw from Gabriel Nassif, but with having 3 of his 3 first lands coming into play tap, he really slowed down himself too much.
So Nassif now carefully eyeing up his sideboard as we go into this third game. Every single game an extra opportunity for him to not just obviously get those wins, potentially get another high Grand Prix finish, but also to get extra information going into the big show in a couple of weeks' time. That will be Pro Tour Atlanta. The formats for it will be all Guilds of Ravnica all the time. So Guilds of Ravnica Draft and this standard format that we see now, which has been so heavily impacted by Guilds of Ravnica.
Yeah. One thing we've seen in this standard format is how much better the guilds are that have already been released, I'd say, in Guilds of Ravnica. Because
yeah, we've not seen very many Azorius control decks, for example.
Golgari is good. There's a lot of Boros decks running around.
Whole bunch of Izzet, lots of Izzet.
Lots of Izzet. There's Selesnya also.
Yeah, Gregor Kowalski's Selesnya deck looks absolutely great.
We see almost no Gruul, no...
Orzhov?
No Orzhov, yeah. Like, I think Orzhov, if it gets a couple of good cards, could actually be very good. Like, you've got the 2 Knights that work very well together.
But I mean, Black-White Vampires was a thing from Ixalan. That's still around. So it seems like that ought to play very neatly into a lot of the things that Orzhov has historically done. Obviously, just yet we don't know exactly what they are going to be doing once they get around this time. But excited to find out, and also kind of excited. This is something that in my local shop we've been talking about a lot. There's going to be the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which is the Dungeons and Dragons setting in Ravnica. So we're going to get to learn loads of the background of Ravnica that way as well, which will be something that I know various folks are hotly looking out for.
Rakdos is another... We don't see it anymore. It was so popular.
Red Black Chainwhirler was the best deck in the format for much of the time, and Red Black lists, I don't think I've seen one around the room just yet.
No. The reasons to play black, Scrap Heap Scrounger and Disintegration are just gone. So no reason to play black anymore in your red deck.
But also the mana bases that you can make once you've got the full set of 10 different dual lands can be some pretty spicy ones. I'm really intrigued to see how exactly that plays out. And I kind of love the fact that with Guilds of Ravnica, R&D have been very smart about trying to make sure that there's still incentives to be 2 colors rather than 3 or 4, because the likes of Crackling Drake and that entire cycle of color, or like CCDD, I think is the term they use for sort of 2 mana of 2 different colors. It means that those cards are difficult to splash, and it means we're going to get the whole rich gamut of how many colors people play, rather than everyone just sort of defaulting to, well, nearly 5. So Henk Lucassen on the play here. Starts things off with a Memorial to Folly. He looks down the gun of a Miscloaked Herald, but has the early dead weight to make sure that it will not be attacking him anytime soon. There was a Curious Obsession in hand for Nassif, so he may have successfully dodged a big turn 2 from Nassif, because Nassif just has to play an island and pass here. End of turn, there is our Merfolk Trickster. Sometimes just being a 2-2 with flash good enough, and right now, depending on how much counter magic available to Nassif, yep, we see that Curious Obsession, so he's able to hit in this case for 3, draw a card, and because that Merfolk Trickster is a wizard, he already has access to Wizard's Retort to stop what's going on, and he's drawn into another Curious Obsession.
Yep, so once again a very good draw. Henk kind of has to hope that his removal will resolve, but I don't think it will. He doesn't have the 4th land, Gabe. So this is an interesting decision. Does he go for a second Curious Obsession? Oh, he has the 4th land, so I think just attacking and sitting behind your 2 counters is the best choice here. Because if he goes for Curious Obsession and Henk has 2 removal spells, then he loses so many cards.
As things stand, 1 removal spell can be easily dealt with here. Wizard's Retort is enough to close that one out. Charter Course picked up post-combat. Nassif there, Discipline, does not just elect to draw 2 cards. He's already got his card drawing engine online. Would much rather keep up more counter magic for the likes of, I don't know, maybe something like this one. Vraska is not going to be good enough. There's more counter magic from Nassif, and there's no follow-up from Henk beyond that. He tapped 4 mana and he only had a tap land to play afterwards. So again, he's going to be taking a big old hit here. And Nassif, his Curious Obsessions doing fantastic work from in Game 2. Looks like they might be doing a repeat performance here in Game 3.
Yeah. This turn, he can play another Curious Obsession, growing it to 4/4 and Tempest Djinn, giving him 2 threats which kind of have to be answered. Or he can attack, chart a course, he'll probably find another island and then play Tempest Djinn. I think I like the second a little bit better because it draws you more cards.
Yeah, I think I like throwing down a Curious Obsession or using Charter Course. Not even necessarily playing out the Tempest Djinn this turn, but just making sure that you have some way of continuing the Vice-like grip that you have on this game by having disruption for what your opponent's doing. At the moment, he doesn't have any form of meaningful interaction in hand. So by playing this Curious Obsession, his attack is for 4. He draws 2 additional cards, and I believe that he has found a Spell Pierce. So if there's an Essence Scatter
and a Disdainful Stroke.
So
the thing I don't like about this play is that if Henk has Assassin's Trophy, he's actually losing his Trickster. Because he doesn't have Dive Down and he doesn't have the Wizard's Retort. So
you think maybe a Charter Course as well after combat?
Nah, because then if you don't draw a land, you lose to Chupacabra as well. But I think playing the second Curious Obsession is something I would not have done. I don't think it's much of a problem that it's a 4/4 ground creature, because you do still have 2 Tricksters to tap down opposing creatures. But I do believe that this play is a little bit worse against Assassin's Trophy, which fortunately for Gabe, Henk does not have.
A Melody there, the pickup for Gabriel Nassif, so he could steal that creature if he wanted to. But first up, he's just going to attack for a whopping 6 damage, draw 2 more cards. He's got so many copies of Tempest Djinn now that he might as well throw one down, because each Tempest Djinn will be lethal based on the amount of life available to Henk Lucassen right now, just 4 life remaining. And a Tempest Djinn plus having access to some counter magic ought to be good enough.
So now the choice is whether or not he deploys the Tempest Djinn. If he plays it, then he's got 2 lethal creatures on the board. If he doesn't play it, he sits behind, double counterspell. And I like how much time he takes to make these decisions. Like they seem easy because it's a mono blue deck, but they're not easy and they can be game deciding. In this particular case, he's very likely to win, but he still takes his time to make the right play.
Yeah, sometimes you see players that they only really go to the tank on decisions when they're just about to lose. And by waiting until that long, they potentially should have been thinking earlier on. Or players that, when they're in a winning position, get very gung-ho about how they play. But Nassif always thinking. Wild Growth Walker here. So if there's a creature with Explorer as a follow-up, then there's nothing to say that Nassif is going to be able to get through for lethal damage in this next turn.
Nope.
Just a land and a pass.
So now he has Merfolk Trickster to tap one down and then Entrancing Melody to take the other one. Should be enough unless Hank finally drew one of his removal spells. Does he have to play the Trickster now? If he waits, then he's still... Yeah, if he waits, he still has to tap out next turn. So he cannot keep up Disdainful Stroke. That's the question. Do you still play around Vraska's Contempt here, or do you not? I think playing around it is actually smart, because it's one of the ways how Hank gets back into the game.
Yeah, if it had worked out that Gab had tapped out to cast Merfolk Trickster there, yes, it would have made it a little bit easier for him to get the win this exact turn. But if there was even an Assassin's Trophy at the end of turn there, it would have been a bit of a disaster for him. So this way round, yes, he slows down his win, but he is more likely to ensure his win.
I'm not even sure that's the right play here. Getting back the Seeker Squire, getting rid of that land might actually become crucial. It's like a play you never want to make. Very desperate move.
Essence Scatter here, meaning that at least there's not going to... Oh, sorry, Merfolk Trickster to tap the Wild Growth Walker, meaning there's not going to be any life gain here. Negate on the top. So that a key sideboard card that, being Sultai, does afford this particular list that you wouldn't see in green-black. But in this case, immediately getting put in the graveyard on the Explore. Look at the amount of cards in Gabriel Nassif's grip here. It's going to be so difficult for him to let this one slip away. Cast down now. There's only 3 mana remaining. Does deal with the creature with 2 copies of Curious Obsession, but at this point the Curious Obsessions, they've done their work. Often when it comes to creature enchantments, there's this worry of, well, if they just kill the creature it's on, you end up losing a lot of value. Curious Obsession, you don't need to have too many hits in before it's easily replaced itself.
Now Hank is at 4 life, facing 2/2/2s. He's actually dead on board. Does he still have something? Nope.
And there's the handshake. Gabriel Nassif, congratulations to you. Yet another Grand Prix Day 2 locked up. Mono blue tempo doing the do for Nassif. Game 1, not quite there. There was a little bit too much in the way of life gain from Wild Growth Walker and so on and so forth. But when you find the Curious Obsessions with the mono blue list, it just feels like one of the most powerful decks in the format, and that's certainly how things played out in Games 2 and Game 3. We will have more Magic for you soon enough in terms of Time Walks soon enough. But first, these messages. Hello and welcome back to the coverage of Grand Prix Lille. I'm Tim Willoughby, this is Moraine Lebert, and between us we are bringing you round 7 here at Grand Prix Lille. And you know what? This is where it's winning in for a lot of these players. We've already seen Gabriel Nassif lock up his slot in day 2 here at the Grand Prix, but that does not mean to say that the action is over here from our feature matches. We're going to head down back to the feature match area for some time walk magic. So this is Guillaume Wafo-Tapa, the Hall of Famer, up against David... I'm going to give you a go on this one. Wegertz? Wegertz. There we go. On Boros Frenzy. So this is largely red, a little bit of white in there, but with Experimental Frenzy to work with. So each of these decks has their own shot at a reasonably large amount of card drawing.
Yeah, and Guillaume, surprisingly, on a control deck.
Yeah, he's been known for playing blue cards basically his entire career, and to great success. The winner of Pro Tour Yokohama in Japan, that was Time Spiral block constructed, but a little concerning here for the red deck. Hasn't really done anything in these first 3 turns of the game.
Nope. All Mountains already holding 2 kind of useless cards with Fight with Fire. Well, they're not completely useless, but probably not gonna matter all that much.
Yeah, it's not until he kicks them and can send them to the head will they do a whole lot. As things stand, turn 4 goes for Rekindling Phoenix. This is definitely not the super aggro version of red, and the perfect answer there in Syncopate from Guillaume Wafo-Tapa. Exile that Rekindling Phoenix, make sure that it is never going to have to be something to worry about for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, the Frenchman just merrily playing more lands, leaving all of his mana up to be able to interact with whatever's going on the other side of things. And an Experimental Frenzy there with a few cards in hand immediately meets a negate from Wafo-Tapa. He respects the fact that this is the sort of spell that is high velocity for the red deck, does not want to have to deal with that whatsoever, and plays his land, passes things back once again.
Land go, favorite 2 words for Guillaume.
And probably the least favorite for Dave. I mean, when he cast an Experimental Frenzy with a whole bunch of cards in hand, that did not suggest very much for the quality of his draw. He's merrily hit his land drops each and every turn here. The fact that there's been a couple of lands on the top after he tried for Experimental Frenzy suggests that even the Frenzy might not have done a whole lot. But yeah, every piece of creature removal in this matchup is doing very little indeed. Goes for another copy of Experimental Frenzy. This time it meets Sinister Sabotage, so a different counter spell, but the same effect, ultimately getting that Experimental Frenzy straight into the graveyard. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. And you know what, on top of that, let's do a Surveil as well.
Keeps it on top.
Chemist's Insight. This feels like one of the most Guillaume Wafo-Tapa cards imaginable. Instant speed, draw a couple of cards. At some point later on, maybe draw a couple more. This is very much the comfort zone for the control deck, and less so for this Boros list on the other side of things. Even though it represents, by the looks of things, a slightly slower, more controlling red deck, the fact that it's not been able to resolve a spell in the first 7 turns of the game does not seem like where you want to be.
No, does not bode very well. Holding a couple of burn spells.
I mean, Lava Coil does nothing. Fight with Fire, at least for now, not quite good enough. The Lightning Strike in his hand he can cast, though casting a Lightning Strike at your opponent's head when they're on 20, yeah, there's a lot of work needed for that to work out to be good. Here comes Grackling Drake, so a good target for various bits and pieces that Dave might have going here.
Dave thinking about Lava Coil, but that one is a sorcery. He's gonna Lightning Strike Guillaume. That's if your opponent is at 20 and you have to Lightning Strike him. Yeah.
Hard day at the office. Lava Coil here, one of the options, but he may start off with Fight with Fire just because there's not so many targets.
Nope, you're
Sarkhan.
Sarkhan. Right.
So this is one that's going to get a little bit of a read. Sarkhan, generally thought of as the kind of card that enables casting dragons, and all of a sudden, you know, we've got this listed as Boros. As far as Guillaume's concerned, this is a modern red list, and so part of Guillaume reading the card there is trying to figure out, well, what does this signify for what my opponent's playing here? The game's gone on very long for this not to be a mono red list. Lava Coil does successfully deal with that Drake there. Sticks it into exile. We do have little zones drawn out on our mats to vaguely keep things in the right spot so they're easy for you guys to keep up with.
He's not discarding. I guess he's hoping that his fight with fires boat will be able to go to the dome. Wow. Might actually end up working because Guillaume is out of hard counters. Only has 2 Essence Scatter.
Though the notion of potentially being able to use expansion to send a fight with fire back in the other direction as well is kind of interesting to me. Another Crackling Drake coming off the top there. Teferi, another option available to Wafo-Tapa if he so chooses.
If Guillaume is playing 4 creatures, it must be that they are very good. Usually his control decks have 1 or 2 creatures.
Yeah, whether they're Grave Titans, Torrential Gear Hulks, that sort of thing. I mean, I guess that Crackling Drake, when it attacks, it doesn't need to attack very many times in this deck because very frequently there will be a lot of instants and sorceries in the graveyard.
Guillaume is right now is like 2 cards in hand. You up the Sarkhan and you play a Sacred Foundry. What is going on?
A big explosion there in order to kill off Sarkhan and draw 5 cards for Guillaume Wafo-Tapa. This is exactly the sort of thing that Wafo-Tapa are looking to do. The new Sphinx's Revelation working out very nicely for him. Throws down a Crackling Drake, picks up another card, and yeah, the extent to which he's going to have to discard at the end of the turn is pretty substantial here.
Yeah, and funnily enough, still doesn't have a hard counter. These Jeskai lists usually have like 4 to 8 hard counters, 4 Sinister Sabotage, and sometimes even Ionize. Guillaume also has a Negate, which could be counted as a hard counter. But he still hasn't found him. But next turn he's going to gain a bunch of life if he keeps one of the Deafening Clarions.
As things stand, it seems like he's not so worried about that. He just wants to get on with his turn. He's got Essence Scatter for if it's a creature coming along. As it stands, though, Fight with Fire kills off one of the Crackling Drakes. The other Crackling Drake will hit in for a lot if it survives. Here's an Experimental Frenzy. This time round it resolves. So now Dave gets to look at the top card of his deck whenever he wants, and he can play cards from the top of his deck, but he cannot play cards from his hand.
How many instants or sorceries? At least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's at least 10. So 2 attacks from Crackling Drake should do it. But Dave could maybe even kill the Drake. He would have to blow up his own Experimental Frenzy if he wants to play the Fight with Fire in his hand. There's another Drake. That's probably going to shut the door.
Gigantic attack in the air here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, we'll see the life total go down shortly enough and figure it out for sure. And here's Teferi. 2 Crackling Drakes plus Teferi. That was an attack for 11.
Yeah, and even going to put the Experimental Frenzy on as a 3rd card. Now Dave, he does get to play the Fight with Fire. Even gets to kicker it. He doesn't?
I mean, even with all of that, it wasn't going to be enough because there were 2 Drakes that he wasn't going to be able to quite handle everything. Scoops them up and we get on to game 2. Guillaume Wafo-Tapa here riding high, looking to get that 6th win to lock up his spot in day 2 here at Grand Prix Lille. And this time around, we see an early Spyglass coming from Dave. And the hand's an interesting one because you've got Niv-Mizzet Perun there. In multiples, obviously not ideal given that it is a legend, but having 1, obviously very powerful. Then we've got some lands, an Essence Scatter and a Negate. So he has the counter magic from turn 2 onwards for pretty much anything that Dave wants to work with. And there's not really anything that the Sorcerer's Spyglass can name here that is hugely impactful.
No, of course, the Spyglass is there mainly against Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. But still, like, despite Guillaume not having it at this point, it will still stay in play and still shut down any future Teferis. One of the best cards in red from the newest set is, of course, the Steamkin, which I'm guessing we're going to see now, or is it going to be a 3-mana Sarkhan? No, he's going to go for Steamkin
There's
first.
the runaway Steamkin. So starts off as a 1-1, but each and every time you play a red spell, it gets a +1/+1 counter up until the point that it's a full 4/4, and you can remove 3 +1/+1 counters from it in order to generate 3 red mana.
Works very well together with the Frenzy, because it generates a bunch of mana, and with the Frenzy you get to keep playing cards. I like how this deck is built. I'm not sure how good it is, but I like Sarkhan. Sarkhan also works well with the Experimental Frenzy, because if there's a card on top which you cannot play anymore, or a second land for the turn, you can actually loot and draw it and get another chance at another card. Sure, the card in your hand won't do much, but it's still better than having a useless land on top. And now a big dragon. Look at that. 5/5. Do you take 5?
It's looking ominous. Yep. We had to suspect that there were dragons when Sarkhan was around. It was just a matter of we hadn't seen them. As things stand, Guillaume Wafotapa missing a land drop there. Not where he wants to be. Would love to be able to get down his Niv Mizzet Perun close to on time. Still lots of lands for Dave here, but if Experimental Frenzy had resolved, he wouldn't have minded having all those extra lands because he'd be able to cast many, many spells. As things stand, since the Sabotage, dealing with the spell, allowing the Surveil, making sure that Guillaume Wafotapa's draws just a little bit stronger, and he does there find his 5th land.
Sulfur Falls. He's gonna Deafening Clarion. Ooh, look at that.
Deafening Clarion and then Expansion in order to be able to make a second copy of it. That was not a card advantageous play, but it did successfully deal with the one dragon on the board, buying time for Guillaume, even though he does now have his shields down a little bit, has to just look on as Sarkhan gets played on the other side of the table.
Yeah, now he's just hoping for that 6th land.
Crackling Drake, at least a sizable enough creature, and it will draw him another card, so makes it that much more likely that Niv Mizzet will be able to come along later.
And also able to kill the Sarkhan next turn if Dave doesn't have anything, but it seems like he does.
Rekindling Phoenix, a great blocker here.
Crackling Drake is such a strong card, and very important is that it doesn't only count the cards in the graveyard, but also in exile. So with Jumpstart, for example, it would still count the cards. Remorseful Cleric, for example, remove your graveyard, wouldn't do anything against it. So it has been a very good card so far in this format. Also, drawing your card is very important for a control deck.
So Guillaume here does have his 6 lands available. He does have access to the right mix of red and blue. He's even got counter magic right now. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not he wants to throw down Niv Mizzet at the first opportunity, or if he can afford to be a little bit cagey.
If he waits for, like, let's say 2 turns, he could potentially play the Niv Mizzet first, then Deafening Clarion, kill both Phoenix, and then with some triggers from Niv Mizzet, kill the 0/1s. But of course that would require him to survive 2 more turns.
And the Deafening Clarion, if it works out that he can cast it with Niv Mizzet in play, it also means that he can give the Niv Mizzet lifelink. There we see Search for Azcanta stopped by Negate. 6 life to work with. I don't think that there's much room for Guillaume here to be too cute about hanging back on using his big spells.
That was probably a treasure map, not a Search for Azcanta from the Boros deck.
Fair point, yeah. It's so natural that I just assume that whenever I see a checklist card that it will be Search for Azcanta. But yes, you're completely correct there, Moraine. Thank you for calling me up on that one.
I think this is... he could attack with the Drake and gain a bunch of life, but I think playing the Niv Mizzet here is just much better, and just hope that Dave blanks in his 2 next draws. He still has the Drake to chum block, and the Niv Mizzet can also block if really needed. I think playing the land and the Niv Mizzet here, but Guillaume is the control master. If he plays a land next turn, he also has 7 mana, so he can Deafening Clarion and then flash Jumpstart the Chemister Insight. So I think I like that. Not sure why he's giving it that much.
The reason he's giving it that much thought is because he's Guillaume Wafotapa, and that's what Guillaume Wafotapa does.
Yeah.
Here comes Niv Mizzet. Perun. One of the most important characters on Ravnica. Sarkhan has every reason to be concerned. I have seen some Sarkhans in red-blue lists to help power out the likes of Niv Mizzet, which I think is potentially kind of a nice interaction.
What could Dave draw here that wins the game on the spot?
Fight with fire?
One of the better cards would of course be Ixalan's Binding, stranding the second Niv Mizzet, but he's actually ticking up, not discarding and saying go? Oh wow. What's the plan there?
So this feels like Deafening Clarion, give my guys lifelink, kill your guys.
You think that's good?
I mean, if it's not, then I don't know what is. Draw a card, shoot something.
One of the rare occasions where you're actually using both abilities on Deafening Clarion. Ping, draw.
So first he triggers to draw a card.
Yeah. So he cannot kill the 0/1s with this trigger, but he can point it at Sarkhan, and then he can jumpstart the Chemister Insight to kill both 0/1 tokens.
Yeah, because
Seems
that
like
would be
a good turn.
a draw 3 effectively.
And the question is, does he kill Sarkhan? Probably, because he doesn't really care too much about the life totals. Yeah, it's so much damage. It's 5 and 6, 7, 8. Oh, look at that. 8, gain 13, go back to 19. I don't see how Dave is coming back from this one. There's still the Niv Mizzet, so if he plays another non-creature spell, Guillaume also draws some extra cards. So now ping, draw 2, ping twice.
Well, if you're looking for a turnaround, you won't find one much bigger than that. At the start of this turn, Guillaume Wafutapa was very nearly dead. At the end of this turn, he barely looks like he's taken any damage and has 2 of the more powerful creatures you'll ever see on a battlefield.
It was Banefire, which he had on top, which he had in hand, which he didn't want to discard. And the funny thing is that even the ping, they gain him life from the Niv Mizzet because it's got lifelink, so he went up to 22. That's great. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Banefire does uncounterably kill Niv Mizzet. He gets to shoot back in response because anytime anyone plays a spell, you get to draw a card. And right now, it might be that we see a Deafening Clarion or Chemister's Insight get cast here simply to power up this Crackling Drake.
Is it 10 damage? Might actually be, because there's also the Chemister Insight. Yeah, there we have it.
There's the handshake. Congratulations to Guillaume Wafutapa there. It turns out that when there are good quality blue cards that let you draw and kill your opponent at the same time, it's a Guillaume-rich environment. And Guillaume, high on his wins, he's got his 6th one, and we will be seeing more of the French Hall of Famer tomorrow. And we will be seeing more Magic soon enough, because that is the end of our round 7. Just one more round to go. It's gonna be Riley. It's gonna be Simon. They are gonna be able to give you all the skinny on the final round of this format. But do not go anywhere. Plenty more Magic to come.